Hello. Welcome to Article Club.
Welcome, welcome.
It is the show where we scour the internet, the World Wide Web, for an interesting article. We read it, and then we talk about it. Hi, Allison.
Hello.
What juicy article are we talking about today?
Well, we're in the new year, 2025. We're
Not to date us or anything.
not to date us, but people talk about resolutions. They got all kinds of things they want to do. And I think there's something that most people want more of in their life is sleep.
Yeah.
And most of what people focus on in sleep is like how to, what's your bedtime routine? How are you creating this perfect environment for sleep? Get rid of the cameras, all of that. Not cameras, the phones. Those two.
Oh,
if there's cameras.
Someone's got cameras in her boudoir.
And so a lot of what people focus on in sleep is like the when you can't sleep, how to fix it or what the root cause is. Like you got sleep apnea, you're grinding your teeth, what's going on?
Tape. There's the whole tape craze,
mouth tape,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about today is actually why do we need sleep? And so this is in The Atlantic, and it's more from a biological perspective. Because most of the data out there around sleep right now is actually around, like I said, like the, sleep clinics. Like my dad has a million sleep issues. He sleeps like 2 hours a day, which maybe is the root of my problems. But he goes to sleep clinics. This is all about, there's a facility in Japan, that's trying to figure out biologically why do we need sleep. And
this facility sounds so nice, by the way.
I know, it sounds so nice.
Birds are chirping. There's
Everything about
exotic
Japan sounds so nice.
Wait, can we just acknowledge that when we picked this article and I started to read it, I didn't know we didn't know why we sleep?
Yes, I know.
Right?
It's like I think a lot about we have a friend whose husband is literally a rocket scientist, and I remember I was sitting at a park with him one time, and he started to explain to me that we actually don't know why planes fly. Like we understand lift and we understand all these like physics properties, but we don't know why they fly. Right. And same thing, we don't really know why we need sleep and like biologically like what the triggers are for sleep and like how you make it up. So it's a crazy question. But they're studying the biology of sleep versus the causes of like insomnia and the treatments of that. And when I was thinking about this article, it also reminded me of the book Blitzed. And which is, for those of you who haven't read Blitzed, it's basically about drugs in the Third Reich and how all of Hitler's army were on speed or like a version of meth. And that's how they stayed awake. That allowed them to march into France and take it over. And that's like basically World War II was led by meth and lack of sleep.
I guess that's that's sort of an example of why I assumed we understood sleep a little bit more before reading this article, right? There's that book, Why We Sleep. Do you remember Ariana Huffington had this whole book about sleep?
She just did a big partnership I saw.
Oh, did she? Atia is always talking about sleep for longevity and cutting down your cardiovascular risk and dementia risk and all that stuff. But it sounds like we don't actually know the actual tangible function. What do they say in the article?
Sleep pressure.
Yeah, but like what creates that specifically? Yeah. So we know sleep is good. We know it helps repair things, but we don't know what is triggering the repairing.
Yeah. So what? I thought what this article goes into is one, that sleep is universal, so it's something that all living beings need. So
even jellyfish.
What? They talk about jellyfish have to sleep or rest, and if you if they start to just relax and you keep poking them, that then later on they need more sleep. Like I know, running all these experiments on jellyfish. I think a lot about, my mom always asks about dolphins, and do you know how dolphins sleep?
No.
Okay, because they're in the water, they could have predators that are coming after them. So dolphins actually sleep, one side of their brain falls asleep at a time. Oh. So they sleep with their left side and their right side. But when their left side is off, they then have on their dolphin to the other side, and they have their right side off. And so they swim side by side so that they can have basically full view of the ocean, but one side of their brain is turned off.
Wild.
I know.
Okay, well, that at least has some, strategy to it. In the article, they talk a lot about how is something so catastrophically vulnerable, so part of human nature and animal nature, right?
Right. Like you would stop wars, you would stop making love, you'll get
eaten,
you'll stop a lot of things
so that you can sleep. It's got to be that important. You'll stop, procreating, all those things.
Totally.
Sounds like the dolphins really have it figured out. I didn't realize that.
I know, it's brilliant. But so what they talk about a lot is the concept of sort of what causes you to go to sleep. And so that whole piece is called sleep pressure. So that's sleep pressure builds as you stay awake, as you stay up late, or even like as your active all day. So like we're just discussing, we've had very busy days, and my sleep pressure is high,
As one does.
and so they go into this like study of like where we are so far in understanding sleep, why the brain does what it like does when it's sleeping, and like sort of what's even happening while we're sleeping. Like what is
so
the
that
biological function?
That we know. It's like
the REM, the waves.
We know the cycles.
Yep, exactly.
I'm like picturing all these poor little animals with electrodes all over their heads, and we're watching their little waves. So that we get, and we get that something's building up, but we don't know what's causing that buildup.
Well, and like how the buildup actually impacts the sleep. So
Right.
she talks about sleep pressure, like when you have more sleep pressure. So like if you had done like a bender and you'd been up for 12 hours, 24 hours, 12 hours is probably normal. If you've been up for like 24 hours, that the waves actually during your sleep are different, and so that sleep pressure impacts even also how you sleep and kind of the activity that happens, which sort of like intuitively makes sense. Like that doesn't seem that revolutionary.
Right, and didn't we talk about mice who have some sort of part of their brain removed or something, like it impacts the waves? What was that all about?
So she talks about, so basically I was thinking a lot about that Demi Moore movie that she won the Golden Globe
The
for.
Substance. Still
The
haven't seen it,
Substance. Oh,
but oh boy.
Wild. Highly recommended. Don't
But we
recommend
can
at
talk
the same
about how
time.
I ran into Margot Qualley on a beach once. That's another story.
Neither here
She
nor
was
there.
lovely.
Yes, I'm sure. So there is a substance. So I was thinking of the substance that builds up in the brain when you're awake, and that's called adenosine.
Right, but we don't know that's the one thing. Like that does exist as
that
one
exists,
potential.
and they know that that's correlated. So like,
Yes,
there is like
yes.
when you're not sleeping or when you're awake for a long period of time, adenosine builds up.
And that's what caffeine basically blocks.
Yep. And so no. Caffeine, it's immune to caffeine. So it's basically like no matter what, like even if you are really tired and you drink some caffeine, like its receptors are like, no, we don't even react to caffeine. So adenosine is building all day with your sleep pressure. It's immune to caffeine, I think.
I think it's.
Are you gonna edit this?
Let's go to the text. I think it
uh,
appears to build up, and then
Oh,
caffeine
you're right. You're right.
seems to work on the receptor.
Caffeine binds some. I can't.
Something.
Okay.
I think,
you're right. You're right.
Which
You're
I think
so right.
no, it's okay. I think it's part of the reason we know that like that's one, like that could be part of the
Yeah,
picture.
sleepiness.
Yeah, but we still don't know what kicks the adenosine into gear.
Correct. Yeah. And when you're sleeping, we also know that adenosine drains.
No one's a sleep
out.
expert here, Allison.
Right.
No,
not even these.
Figure this out.
Not even these homies in Japan.
Yes,
and
which is so cute.
Tsukuba.
I'm sorry, thinking about them, they're like at a like tempura restaurant, and they're like,
izakaya.
We're trying to just not talk about work. We're trying to not talk about sleep, and then
But
they
did you see the
can't.
pigeon study? The pigeon study, man.
It's just so cute. I want to hang out with these people.
I know. I can't imagine anything that could
maybe
take
one
up my
day
time
we'll
that
go-
much.
I know.
Take up my brain. All
Allison,
my sleep pressure devoted to sleep.
I had the exact same thought. Imagine being so passionate about a topic that you like can't not talk about it.
Yeah, that you have to like just
That's
keep it in your
cool.
pants for like 10 minutes to not talk about it.
But it also must be so stressful that no one knows the answer. Although AI is going to figure this out. That's my takeaway. But fast forward to the end of the pod. Guess we can wrap that up. Okay.
So,
anyways,
yes,
tell us
to
more.
your point, there is so there's all these things that they like know are correlated, but they can't quite figure out like kind of the why behind these things. So like adenosine builds up with your sleep pressure, and then while you're sleeping, there's like these little scrubberoos that kind of drain it from your brain. And they're also like, we don't even know where it goes. We don't really know what creates adenosine. There's like a couple of different hypotheses, but no one's agreeing on what creates it. And then there's like the question, I think, with so many different sort of like, not that not sleeping is, although I guess like insomnia is a disease, but like other diseases, they've been like, oh, maybe there's a genetic mutation. And so maybe there's like, a gene that actually is requiring you to need sleep. And so they've taken like some certain genes outside of mice, these poor mice.
I know.
But when those mice then don't get the REM, they seemingly don't build sleep pressure. So there's some...
Yeah.
There are some
and they're
sort of like
they're observing thousands of mice, and the mice who sleep crazy, like the mice who naturally don't sleep well, they're pulling out those mice, and then they're looking for genetic issues, and they've targeted this sort of like specific gene.
Yeah, it's like an R2K. It's something random.
Okay, so do we think bad sleep is genetic, or sleep skills are
Okay, well, I did some side homework
Ooh.
from the reading because I had a boss when we worked together, and she, there's all those people that say like, oh, I don't need that much sleep, blah blah. And I think they've shown scientifically that people need like 7.5 to 8 hours,
and women probably more.
Probably.
That's the Instagram science I'm seeing.
And
moms need more sleep.
It's true. And she slept for 3 to 4 hours a night and was always seemingly well rested. And it was a problem for our working relationship because I would wake up at like 6 a.m. to go work out, and I'd have like 20 messages from her and emails, and I was like, can you just like delay send of these? Like, I know that you're up working at 3 a.m., but like that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, no, I only need like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. I wake up, I feel rested, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, what's the counter to these people who don't sleep well? And there is another gene that they've been able to identify that is, genetic, and that there are families where people need minimal amounts of sleep, like only need 4 to 6 hours to operate, like at the same level.
She was a little bit too early for the old schedule send
on
Gmail.
Yeah, exactly.
That came out a couple years ago. That would have been.
No, actually, I think it was there, and she was just like forgot. She was like, "Oh, I'll try to do that, or I'll work on that," but it never really landed.
So we do think there's something around those people. I would like to understand if there's a gene for the people who wake up refreshed in general.
Yeah,
Every time I wake up, I'm like, "Oh, bus hit me."
I know.
And other people just, my husband included, springy, let's go start the day. What is that about?
I don't know.
We can get to it.
I don't know. But I don't. I mean, had you ever thought about this question? Like, when you think about your own sleep, do you think more about just like how do I sleep better, or what? Or like you sleep pretty well.
I sleep pretty well. It's fascinating. I've never thought that deeply about this because I thought we understood why we slept. Like I thought, and this has led me to think, what are all the other things? Okay, how planes fly. What are all the other things I'm assuming smart people have figured out, and we actually have no idea, and I should be existentially worried about. I'm this way with like step tracking, all that stuff. I can't overthink it, or else I know I'm going to get in my head about it.
Yeah.
So I've always been worried if I learned too much about sleep, I wouldn't be able to sleep. That Why Do We Sleep book, I remember it was all the rage. I bless me, I totally forget the author. And I read before bed, and I remember reading that sleep book before trying to go to sleep, and then I'd be like, am I in REM and am I in whatever? So I may like totally avoid if I'm going to overthink.
Less is more.
Less is more. And like luckily, like I have been blessed with, some decent sleep. We can talk about pregnancy and children. That's like a whole other sleep fascinating thing because pregnancy fucks your sleep up completely. But I'm kind of like avoidant when it's not a problem, and I wonder how many other people are that way. Do I have to understand every intricacy of how something works if it's working okay for me?
Right.
Have you looked into sleep more? Because I know you've had a sleep journey.
I know. Well, I have had such a sleep journey, and I think that I feel like in my 20s I was all about like sleep just being one. It came easily, and I also thought I could do with less. Because other things seemed more important to me.
Okay, so is this college or is this pre-college?
No, post-college.
Post-college. 20s, are you in your college? Yeah, okay, post-college.
Post-college. Although I've never pulled an all-nighter, ever.
Oh, me neither. The closest I've come is like a late night in New York, which is like
2 a.m. maybe
3.
But no, I never stayed up late to work. So I've always known I needed sleep. Like I've never really felt that I could. And so I feel like something that you need so intrinsically. To your point a little bit, I'm sort of like, well, why do we care if we don't know why we need it?
Well, it hopefully will unlock when it's not working for people, if we completely understand the mechanism. I get that.
Sure.
But yeah, on a personal level, I think it's like personally avoidant. And
we're so privileged.
Also, where do you stop? Like, I need to uncover the answer to every part of my existence. I feel like could get completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
I would like to put out into the universe. I would like a list. Maybe I should ask ChatGPT.
I know.
I'd like a list of 10 existential things we actually don't understand. I mean, like aside from why are we here?
The why,
is there life after death or whatever? But like, what are the like obvious 10 things that I think we understand that we actually don't that I should be worried about?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because then we'll add them to the pod.
Right. Great. We'll look at those articles.
Okay, so tell me more about sleep. So 20s.
So didn't really care about sleep very much.
So
would prioritize other things.
Wasn't broke.
Would prioritize other things. Would prioritize like hanging out with friends. Mostly exercise because I feel like I'm pretty good about going to sleep early because I'm like a Cinderella. Like at midnight, I am just dead to the world. And I was thinking about this
Pumpkin
article a
status.
lot in the context too of morning, like night owls and early birds, because like people who and is that has to do with the quality of sleep, or is there something with like sleep pressure when it builds for you? Like, does it build more at certain times of day for certain people? Because I think about I can wake up early, no problem. I can get through most of the day, no problem. But then around 7 or 8 p.m., I feel like my sleep pressure is crazy. But maybe it's just because I woke up earlier, and so the sleep pressure is just built. But so maybe it just is a matter
you
of
a
like when you start
napper?
the clock. No, I've never been able to nap.
Yeah, interesting.
Are you a napper?
No.
Yeah.
No, God. I would just, except when you're pregnant, again,
Mm-hmm.
which we can do a side note for pregnancy. Was always a good sleeper, both pregnancies up at 3 a.m., no matter what. Existential doom, existential thoughts. You've got like hormones rushing through your body. Something's telling you, you're a mom now. Why are you sleeping? You idiot. And then you have an infant. And of course, you're, up with that infant.
Well, I currently and for the last 3 years have had the 3 or 4 a.m. cortisol wake up.
Okay, so hormones. So we're talking about genetic, we're talking about like why we need to sleep and what are the core fundamentals of sleep, but then there's got to be a billion things that get in the way of that sleep.
Totally.
And for women, we have our hormones are constantly changing the way we feel, the way we operate. I'm sure we need to look into sleep and cycles.
I know. I actually would be very curious why cortisol kicks in at that point. Like, is that because they're done scrubbing the adenosine and then all the other hormones can like rear their ugly head? Like, is that the most important thing? That's the why. That's like
maybe
fundamental to sleep has to
The
happen.
little I looked into it in pregnancy, because I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is like on the dot 3 a.m. There is some break in the cycles that like this allows, for some
to
reason
bubble up.
it bubbles up at that point. And I don't know why pregnancy exasperates that. Also, you're sweating. You're disgusting. So
So that's the other facet of sleep.
yes.
But yeah, so I get I'm trying not to look at my phone again for sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
And
Where do
feel
you
like,
put it?
Like, why do we call sleep hygiene? Like, it's not actually about cleanliness. And then I was thinking about maybe it's because in sleep, like we were talking about these little, the adenosine, like scrubbing clean, like the or storing the wrong things. So like, why are we picturing the brain as like this cleaning device?
Well, let's also talk about that scrubbing, because that is something I always assumed I knew, that sleep is when things get cleared out that I don't need anymore.
Right.
Have you heard that? Like, I actively think about this.
Yeah, they talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, and they talk about it, and that seems to be
That's
the
like
case.
a hypothesis of why we need it.
A hypothesis of why we need it, and like scrubbing away. And if you didn't scrub away every little synapse that was connected, every little observation during the day, you would be overwhelmed with.
It would just be like messy.
Garbage and noise. And I mean, side note, total tangent, wonder like how that's related to memory also.
Yeah.
I think my scrubbers do a really good job because I'm a really future facing person. I like do not remember what happened yesterday. So are they like scrubbing harder? And then, And then
and why do we call it scrubbing?
it's harder for me to wake up in the morning because they're scrubbing me clean,
Yeah.
Whereas maybe other people, it's just like a light brush.
Yeah, literally in this article, they're talking about that like adenosine and like doing cleanup. Like, why are we cleaning up the memories? It's such a funny metaphor.
know.
Maybe it's
Or
just 'cause
organizing.
it's visual.
Yeah.
Like you can actually imagine a cleaning
The
squad.
hygiene question is interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
So my sleep hygiene, I still have my phone next to my bed. I just don't want to look at it in the middle of the night. So I have my
Is
Alexa.
it your alarm clock? Oh.
No, so it is my alarm clock. But I have my Alexa, and Alexa, I recently learned, can also whisper. And so I'll say to Alexa, what time is it? And she'll say, it's 3 a.m. And it's always exactly 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. And I'm like, this is wild. Like on the
Weird.
dot. Doesn't really matter what time I go to sleep. It's always on the dot, 3 or 4 a.m.
Wow. Do you feel less alone because Alexa can tell you?
No, but I am proud of myself every time that I ask her instead of looking at my phone. Because
that's
there's
good.
such a yearning to look at the device
Okay, maybe I should try that.
to fill my space.
I try to just put it, it's like I'd have to get out of bed to look.
My other,
It's on a
that's good.
dresser.
That's smart. My other trying sleep hygiene, trying to achieve is not looking at my phone after 8 p.m.
Whoa. Okay. This I've noticed about you because I'm constantly like texting you. What do you think? Should we do it? Come on, da da da. And I'm like, wow, this girl's got
Where is
great
she?
phone hygiene. And I get that stupid received but or like
notifications are silenced.
You've been absolutely silenced. Nobody's listening to you. You're screaming into a void, and I'm like,
trying.
"Oh,"
I'm
but it's
trying.
fine. I admire it.
Okay, I was also thinking of like the brain sort of shutting off and for the different things. I was thinking of the TV show Severance.
Yes, coming back,
and how like they've literally split their brain in half to separate some of these pieces.
Yeah, innies and outies.
And then I was thinking of like sort of sleep is in some ways that not a severance moment, but like the way that they're describing it in this article, and it seems like some of the research that they're doing, or like, could you actually sever? Could you sever the part of your brain that makes you a bad sleeper? Could you remove these different pieces to, I don't know, make it so you don't build sleep pressure, or
maybe, or like mutate the gene or something. There's a piece in the article about how hamsters who are hibernating have to wake up to sleep.
Oh, that blew my mind.
So that I went, what? So that like maybe there's something there, maybe.
Yeah, that like hibernation, which we think of as like
I thought it
the
was
ultimate rest,
recovery, right?
Is actually not
sleep.
Like the process of sleep is not biologically happening in that moment. They're just, I guess, like straight chilling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't. I don't. If we're able to identify the mechanism of sleep, I don't see why you couldn't. I don't know, create the thing that attaches to the thing and adjust it. But I don't know about consciousness. Is that what you're asking? Like separate your conscious self from your sleeper self?
Yeah, it's a good. I wasn't quite going there.
Okay,
but I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at. I think.
And are you a different person when you're sleeping?
Yeah.
Does anyone really know you?
Does anyone really know you? I was also thinking about the longevity question you brought up. Like everyone's read Outlive and thinking about Peter Attia, and like how can we know that something is so essential like sleep, but not know like actually how do you prove that increases longevity if we don't know why we do it?
It's all correlation, right?
Yeah,
which is the problem. We don't know exactly how it works. We know it's doing something good, and then we can see, okay, the people who are getting more sleep, it's
live longer.
Yeah, live longer. But those people who are getting more sleep are probably doing other good things for their bodies.
Right.
It's so hard to parse out.
Quite frankly, it's also wild to me that like the bedroom, like when you are looking at apartments, it's based or houses or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's based off of the number of bedrooms. They're like, it's a 4-bed. I mean, bathrooms too.
Yeah.
But we like the bedroom also feels like a really. If we are really trying to create these like perfect conditions for sleep, the bedroom feels like a really antiquated or like outdated system. Like why aren't we all in pods?
Yeah.
Or like something that's like creating the perfect environment to sleep.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know.
Although I guess all those horrible hotels tried like the little slumber pods that people could stay in that I don't think anyone liked.
Although those hotel pods have saved me a time or two.
Really?
Oh my God. On like when you're doing crazy international legs or whatever, and you just need, it's like you can like sort of lie down and there's sort of a sink like on the bed. That's the best. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the sleep journey. So we have the 3 a.m. wake up situation.
3 a.m.
Are you trying different stuff?
4 a.m. wake up.
Or has anything in the article like illuminated some of that for you? Have you dug deeper into sleep because?
No, I think it just, I probably spent all of last year trying to like improve my sleep hygiene because I was just in denial of the fact that I was really stressed and that in fact was probably the biggest impact. But I, was trying not to look at my phone before bed. I was doing magnesium tea. I was doing melatonin. I got this like lavender essential oil stuff. I have a face mask. For Christmas, literally, my brother gave me the Therabody eye mask, which has got it's got like 3 different vibration settings.
So it basically kicked the migraine thing I got you out the door.
Yeah,
this little Amazon tube, which I wear all the time still.
But no, I can't decide if I like it yet or not. I actually think it's really good for napping, but I don't know if I like it. No, okay. It's only it's vibration. It's like different like rhythms that are supposed to like scientifically lull you to sleep somehow.
Whole lot of
I know it's $100 of vibration, and I'm like I should have just bought something like a vibrator literally and just stuffed it in my existing face mask. But it turns off after 15 minutes though, so that's nice. But I haven't. It helped me nap, but I actually like couldn't fall. It's a good face mask, but I couldn't fall asleep.
Okay, so you're troubleshooting.
I'm troubleshooting all this stuff for sleep, and then when you wake up, they say like don't just sit there and like be paralyzed in your own thought. Either get up and like do a walk, which I don't ever do, or I like try to read from my Kindle. I try to read before bed because I know when that happens, I sleep better.
Same.
Again,
always.
I don't do all these things all the time, but I've tried some like more like meditation kind of stuff, but nothing has kicked. I actually don't have trouble falling asleep. My issue is the wake up. And when I left my job last year, I started sleeping through the night again, but now it's back. So it was really a short-lived de-stressor.
Okay, so
I think it's cortisol. It's really my armchair expert diagnosis.
So you have no hypothesis on the function of what makes you sleepy, because that's all working.
Yeah,
it's just like
more
what is interrupting it, and it's some sort of spike. It's these hormones.
I know.
Can I tell you one of the most fascinating sleep experiments that I've witnessed in my daily life? It is a toddler.
Sure.
Gaining sleep pressure throughout the day. It just, when I read this article, I was like, oh yeah, this idea of sleep pressure, I can see it happening in my kid. Like I can see I could see an eye rub. I can see the glossy eye. Like you see it happening, and then they start getting whiny and da 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 da. And when you like push it, and they don't get their nap, then like all hell breaks loose. And then
that's a fascinating thing. Don't you wonder if like kids have like this? If we all have the same level of adenosine that builds, but like so that's why kids need to nap, because their body is just smaller and can't process it all.
Yeah. I mean, that would make perfect sense. Or they haven't learned to manage it. Like maybe we're all just as tired as we always were. Yeah. We just like don't know how to handle it. And it is the cutest thing in the world when like then the second they hit the pillow, like my kid falls asleep with a book on her face, like a huge book, like in the midst of wherever, which is wild. It's like her body doesn't need to be comfortable anymore. It just like a magic potion just put her out. So that has been fascinating to see. And then also with infants, you know, there's a lot of like, you're so overtired you can't get them to sleep. And I wonder if that happens with adults. Like I'm so exhausted. Yeah. I know I need to sleep. I still can't sleep. I don't know.
Okay, so when you think about, so this could be a totally armchair physicist moment. But so you think about this, to your point, kids need a lot of sleep. You see the sleep pressure build. They need all the sleep time.
Physically see it.
And then we have this whole phase of life from like, let's call it probably like mid-adolescence, because I feel like younger kids sleep still like 12 hours a day or something, to, I don't know, into like probably you're 60 when you sleep, let's say an average of 8 hours a night. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, part of it's like you need the sleep when you're building your body as a child, and then you get to like the steady state. But then I think about, okay, like my dad, who's almost 70, and my grandmother, who's 95, they sleep so much. My grandmother sleeps in till like 10 a.m. now, and she used to wake up at like 6 a.m.
It's a Benjamin Button situation.
What is that? Why do they? If sleep is like so helpful for longevity, why do the old people like need way more? Like, should we be sleeping more?
It kind of makes sense. Well, also they have the time to.
Yeah,
like,
but I don't think it changed. Like she sleeps more now at 95 than she slept at 70. It's not like she was working.
It makes perfect sense that as a kid is growing their body, they need the energy, they need the sleep. Then you're sort of in this like, okay, I'm sort of okay. And then as your body, you know, gets weaker, it probably craves more rest.
Right, but like, is there what's happening in the older people with more sleep?
And is it a failure, or is it
like why do we need to sleep more as we get older, as we're younger and as we get way older?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More recovery of some sort, but we don't know why. We don't know why. Okay, so do you think your sleep situation is genetic? Because you mentioned your dad.
Oh, I get nervous about that a lot. My mom sleeps like a lamb.
Anywhere, right?
Exactly. No problem. Sleeps every night like a rock.
My sisters and mom and I all are kind of in a similar, like, kind of need to read a book. My mom listens to a podcast. Hello, Mom. You're getting very sleepy. But everybody's kind of in that steady state. Like I was at a
bachelorette this weekend, and one woman has two kids, and to your point, one's 5 months old, and she was talking about her own sleep. And she listens to this podcast that is like, I think, a little ASMR-y, but it's just describing cereal. And it's like
the whole podcast is describing cereal?
Yes,
different kinds?
A box of tricks. And yes.
This is amazing.
And it's a sleep podcast, but that's just describing cereal.
We'll have
to find it. I know, but so she was specific. Like, I love it because it's like
meaningless, soothing.
Right? Exactly.
Also, like childhood wonder of like tricks. Yeah. What's it called? We need to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, put it in the show notes. Exactly. What's been like your worst sleep deficit you think you've ever had? Or, sorry, sleep pressure. The highest
Um,
amount of sleep pressure.
Probably jet lag, and so I wonder what happens that with your circadian rhythm, how that all comes into things. You're tricking your body into thinking this is totally cool. We can just go about our day, even though it's like yesterday or something.
It's yesterday.
I recently traveled from California to Australia. We left, and then we got there 2 days later. A 13-hour flight, but 2 days later, and then came back. Friday morning, and got back Friday morning earlier than when we had left. It was crazy. So
I once did that from Australia, and I left on Valentine's Day alone, and I landed in San Francisco on Valentine's Day alone. And I was like, I had to have two
oh my
solo
gosh.
Valentine's days.
Wow,
Yeah, it
wow,
was tough.
that's pretty cute.
I know.
Yeah, I think jet lag. I'm always trying to find the answers to it. I for this trip, I downloaded this. I forget what it's called. It's sort of like sleep tracker thing. Have you heard of
is
these?
this? Yes.
Yes.
My
Yes.
boyfriend's sister-in-law used this,
you know,
and it tells you like how much caffeine you
I
should
do
have.
think it helped. And it's like expose yourself to super bright light, even though it's 11 p.m. So I'm like putting a lamp on my face. You do what you can. And when to really avoid the caffeine, when you're supposed to nap. Not that I ever did. Some of it is like, this is for people without small children. Like there's no way I could just take a nap right now. But I do think that helped. So, and apparently astronauts use it. So we know enough about like how to trick our body into acclimating.
Okay, the other thing that they did not address in this article at all, but I was so curious about, I mean, maybe they touched on a little bit with the hibernation, but is how, like, why do we need to sleep, and like, why do we need to sleep when we need to sleep? So I was thinking a little bit about like circadian rhythms, and there's like, obviously you get exposed to light, you get exposed to the dark, but then I was thinking about like my brother and sister-in-law, my sister-in-law specifically, works so many nights. She'll like have a night shift, and then she has to sleep during the day, and so then you're like, is that sleep, like, why do we have to sleep at night? Is like, why is dark the right setting for that? And like, what, how effective, like, do you build up more pressure if you stay up during the night and sleep during the day, or like, what does that even look like?
And I mean, there must be something evolutionary about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole circadian rhythm thing.
Yeah.
I guess probably like, you can see your predators in the
there was
day.
no electricity today. It doesn't matter when you sleep, but what were you supposed to do? Just sit around and be incapacitated, and then
wait for
when
someone
it's
to eat
time,
you?
and if you're hungry, like
you can't find anything.
You can't find any food.
Yeah.
Reading this article has also just made me think we're babies, we're put to sleep with a lovey or not, like with a parent or not. In my case, it was like, here's your blankie, here's your Barney doll, you have at it, and we're taught, quote unquote, like taught good sleep habits.
Yeah.
And you all of a sudden you're an adult and you're like, of course I go to sleep. Of course I do it this way or whatever. That's just like, and that's what's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. This article has really made me question this whole, around parenting at least. It's like, you need to teach your baby how to sleep through the night. You need to teach your toddler how to sleep through the night. Here's how you do that. You put down, you make the routine, you yada, yada, yada. So the sleep hygiene thing we're putting on ourselves, we're also putting on our kids. And I mean, luckily, like, hopefully they don't have a gene where it's just like, fuck you, I'm not going to sleep gene. Some kids do. But yeah, we're just trying to, I don't know, like put them all into that same construct that we were always put into.
And
which I guess is best for us, but you're raising the question, like,
or like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
Why?
Veronique?
And we don't even know.
Yeah.
Sounds like. But what I do know is I would like to go to this mysterious Japanese sleep institute because it seems delightful.
Tsukuba is.
And they
Tsukuba.
eat tempura, and there's like pretty trees there. So
sounds delightful. It sounds absolutely delightful.
Okay.
The last thing on sleep, and I think is very interesting, is, so I think part of why I sacrificed sleep in my 20s, and part of I think why there's such all these like hackers of like, let's get the most sleep, is because there's like this narrative or sort of belief that, if you want to be productive, you have 24 hours in a day, 168 hours in a week.
Yeah.
But sleep is sort of antithetical to productivity, but it's also essential for it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like some of this, like I feel like why we are asking this question right now, like the why do we sleep, is because people are honestly like, first of all, people need a reason, because they're like, well, if we don't really need it, like if there's no real why behind it, then we can just take those hours and use that to
totally,
progress late stage capitalism.
Yeah. Could you imagine if it's like, actually, you don't need to sleep and take this pill and
right.
da da da.
And if we get rid of this gene, then you don't build up a sleep,
and then
sleep pressure.
If
and
you're
then
the only one
fine.
who's not taking the pill, then you're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
Especially in America.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating.
I know. So I'll leave you with that.
Can we wrap up this sleep thing with we both decided to wear bright red today?
Bright
For
orange.
those, Oh, you think it's orange?
Yeah. Well, I know it's orange.
I am so sure that this is red, and I'm sorry for all of you on audio. This could be like the gold dress, blue dress controversy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bright orange.
Head to our YouTube channel. Sound
vote.
off.
In the comments.
Sound off. It is clearly red.
Wow.
And it's almost exactly the same. I think yours, because yours is sort of knit, it might have a slight orangey hue, but I don't know.
Orange.
It's in the eye of the beholder, it sounds like. Okay. Well, that was a great reflection on sleep. I think it's time to turn over to our segment that we like to end on. What's blowing up the group chat?
What's happening in the group chat?
What is the segment, Elsa?
This segment is about, everyone's got their own text threads. Everyone's reading every Substack under the sun. You're probably listening to a bunch of other podcasts, and then you're talking to other people about it. And you're learning things. You're finding new products, hacks, like things that are annoying you. And this is what's happening in the group chat. So, Carly, what's happening in your group chat?
Okay. Two things. We'll see if I can get away with two things. The first one you taught me about. Blowing up the group chat is moon juice.
Moon juice. Did
So
you juice last night?
I did not. I forgot which.
Hate to hear it.
Which I know. Hate to hear it. And I'm having one of those days where it's like I feel like I was moon juiced.
Yeah.
Moon juice is when you put some water outside on a full moon. It's the evening of the full moon, and that water becomes infused with magical powers that helps you have a great day. And sometimes you can set an intention. It is a foolproof way to improve your life.
Yeah. First
Moon
time I
juice.
did that juice, I had the best month of my life. So,
So there's that.
It could be buyer,
Yes.
first time buyer's
Honestly,
luck.
I
but
forgot to, and I was thinking about it. And I think that alone made me have a good day
I think
today.
I did too. I did it last night, and I have to say, it's maybe it's just delayed reaction.
Delayed reaction. Yeah. Give it some time. Give it some time.
Yeah.
Can I do one quick other one? Because I realized I have my other thing. It's
Please.
boring. It's boring. Blowing up the group thread for a good moisturizer. And, I just took my little self on the way to the pod studio to Sephora and got that moisturizer. So I just love, a little crowdsource, everybody had an opinion. I think
Augustinus Bader dupe.
the
This one.
the opinion that won out was a TikTok hack. And I'll report back.
Yeah.
I got it right here.
Okay, my blowing up
No
the group
sponsorships
chat,
yet, though.
No, yeah, but if you want to, reach out. I blown up my group chat. This was like I said, I was at a bachelorette this weekend.
Again.
And several people went ATV.
If anyone needs a bachelorette guest,
yeah,
call
I'm your
Allison.
girl. I'm like 27 dresses. Yeah. But a bunch of people went ATVing, and I was like, been there, done that. I actually have never been ATVing, but I had no interest in going. I felt like I've been there, done that. And so I abstained, and 6 of us abstained, all smart souls. And instead we were like, oh, we're staying at this house, the pool, blah, blah, blah. Do we really need to go off property? Because we're actually off of a highway in Scottsdale. And we decided instead to just hang out at the house and do people are like, oh, maybe I'm going to do some yoga. I'm going to do some my Peloton app, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do my stretching app. And now everyone that did it, stayed with me, is now obsessed with it. It's called Pliability. And speaking of sleep, I sometimes do it before bed because it also it's like sneaky meditation because I've never been able to commit to
Same.
Headspace, or I don't even know what the other ones are because I can never commit to them.
So meditation with movement.
Yeah, so it's you are basically holding stretches for 2 to 3 minutes, deep stretches. So It feels so good. I always feel incredibly more relaxed, and just my body, I feel 35, my body is just hitting its limits, and it feels good. And I had 3 people after the bachelorette be like, what was that app again?
Ooh.
And so Pliability
All right,
is
Pliability. Let's also put it in the show notes.
frickingbomb.com. Yeah.
All right, Pliability, moisturizer, moon juice, and some
And
sleep
that's
hygiene tips. That's
Yeah.
it. All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. We'll see you next time on Article Club.